Hello, everybody. My name is Angela, middle initial K, Durden, and today I have a very special guest. Full disclosure, I have published his books on a particular subject. We'll get to that later, but I'm going to be interviewing today a fellow by the name of Pat McKee. Pat McKee is an attorney. He specializes in education law, employment law, trusts, and estates. And our topic today is going to be on artificial intelligence and the use of it in the practice of law. And then we're going to get into a couple of books that he's written, and we're hoping that his third one's going to be coming pretty soon. Hint, 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 Pat McKee. So without further ado, let us bring Pat onto the stage. Hello, Pat.
Angela, how
Can
are
I
you?
hear you, Pat? Speak up again.
Okay. Good morning, Angela. Can you hear me now?
Oh, good morning, Pat. Now I can hear
Okay.
you. Awesome.
Okay. Good, good.
Technology being what it is, it's awesome and it isn't it?
It is.
I know. So, Pat, your book. I'm going to hold it up real quick. I hope everybody can see it. This is the second one, Ariel's Image, in the series that you're doing. And as you can tell from the title, Ariel's Image AI, it so
Clever.
happens. Yes, I know. See, that's why you make the big bucks.
Right.
The practice, the use of artificial intelligence in the law. So you've got the law, the practice of law, you've got the court system, and now you've got AI that is making a big stamp in there. Why do you think AI is growing in the use of the practice of law? Is it not?
Oh yeah. It's Angela. The use of AI is probably going to take over the practice of law at some point. That's going to make us lawyers, at least many of us, obsolete. Primarily where you see artificial intelligence now is in research and in drafting of pleadings, briefs, and other routine papers. What has happened, though, and I think you're aware of this, is that some of the limitations of artificial intelligence have become glaring in the practice of the law. Just an example, one of the things that plagues artificial intelligence is this thing called hallucinations.
I know.
Yeah.
Tell
So,
us about it.
so it may not be a terrible thing when you're dealing with an artificial intelligence program that is doing a chat on a piece of merchandise that it's trying to sell you online. But when lawyers are filing briefs, the lawyers represent to the court that what they're providing to the court is true to the best of their knowledge. And what has happened is artificial intelligence programs, when they are asked to, say, research a topic on the law, if they can't find an answer, it appears that they take to making one up. And they will fabricate citations to the court. Now, this might seem a little funny, but it has dire consequences to courts and to lawyers. Any lawyer that submits a brief that he or she has not fully vetted and has not determined to be completely accurate is subject to sanction by the court and by the bar. So there have been a number of lawyers who have fallen prey to this problem. I can tell you, I don't use artificial intelligence in drafting anything. I'm kind of old-fashioned. I do my own research. I write my own briefs. But increasingly, lawyers I'll just say the younger generation of lawyers are more comfortable with artificial intelligence programs drafting their pleadings, their briefs, doing their research. And at some point, that is going to become routine. And people like me who do their own research are going to be the dinosaurs that you dig up in the fossil records 100 years from now.
That may be, but you know what? And I understand exactly what you're saying, but doesn't it throw the ability to rely on case law as proven case law, validated case law, adjudicated case law, however you want to call it, throw it all out the window because now you can just kind of make up whatever it is that suits you. And at what point is there a stop? At what point is there? It should be the attorneys that said no, no, no. I need to confirm this is all so. And now it's falling onto the judges to do that, is it not?
Well, it's falling on judges to catch it. The problem is the repercussions fall on the lawyers if they are not responsible. And I'll tell you, this happens all the time. It's happened to me. You get in a time crunch. You have a brief that's due. Then you have another brief that's due at the same time. And it's hard to get two briefs done at the same time. You might be tempted to rely on an artificial intelligence program to draft one of those briefs. And with the time crunch that you've got, you can then end up having to put one of those in front of a judge without having fully vetted the brief. Now, you might be lucky. And the artificial intelligence program does its job faithfully, doesn't make anything up, and all of the citations are correct. But then you might not, and
Right.
that's where the problem comes in. And I think the solution, at least for now, for lawyers like me, and I think any lawyer, is you can use artificial intelligence to suggest things, areas for you to research, but do not rely completely upon artificial intelligence to do your work for you.
Yeah, that I I don't like laziness.
Right.
And if you're going to sell your services to corporations or to individuals, like myself, or to a small business, that there's a noise. Is your
Sorry.
computer on?
Yeah, my computer's on.
Uh, can you mute your computer? No, we don't want to mute your computer. I don't know what's going on. Okay, we're going
Can
to.
you hear me?
I can hear you, but I'm picking up a bunch of stuff from your computer. I don't know what's going on with your computer. Do you have background noise in your office? No, your doors are all closed, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know what's going on. Well, anyway, we'll. Yeah, it's picking up some noise from somewhere. But the if you're representing yourself as having learned specific knowledge of a legal nature, and you're selling your knowledge of that and your ability to research that, isn't it kind of cheating to bring in this automated thing that is going to do all your work for you, and then
Absolutely. I mean, I don't do it. I just don't do it. But let me tell you where it's coming in,
okay.
where you're going to see it the most. There's a lot of financial economic pressure on defense firms in particular, firms that defend. For example, you see all of these billboards on the interstate advertising for car wrecks. There's not a lot of sophisticated legal analysis that's going on in defending car wrecks. It's if you have one, you've seen them all, and so insurance companies are putting a lot of pressure on defense firms to cut cut their expenses. And one way to do this is to automate as much as possible. And I see it likely that there's going to be so much economic pressure from these from insurance companies on defense firms that they will be more and more inclined to use artificial intelligence to draft those briefs rather than paying a real live lawyer to do it. So it's an economic, like they say, show me the money. It's always an economic pressure on the profession that's going to make this more likely to be used in routine matters. I can see, and you've probably seen on television, ads for programs that draft wills.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that. Wills are seen as repetitive, but
they aren't really in the long run, are they?
No, I mean, they aren't.
Yeah, there may be certain categories of things that you must have and that you must include, but every person's financial things that will be happening after they die, a lot of things go into affecting that for the benefit of the heirs, correct?
Exactly.
And if done correctly, what can happen?
Well, I can tell you what can happen.
Tell us, Pat.
Yeah, I can tell you. So one of my, as you mentioned, one of my specialties is estate planning and probate of estates. And when I draft wills, I do, they're custom wills. I don't do forms. I don't do anything that's drafted from certainly not an AI program. And what happens is people are tempted. They go online and they say, oh, well, here's a form will. Well, the last form will that I probated for a family, and this was a family that had some means, unfortunately, a grandson decided to draft grandma's will for her from a form he found on the internet. And when I probated that will, it cost the family $150,000 in legal fees to straighten it out. And so that's what can happen if you use things without knowledge as to the consequences. And artificial intelligence is taking people in that direction, and it's a false sense of facility, a false sense of security, a false sense of ease. And when you die, if the will is not properly drafted, it can be an absolute nightmare for your family. So
yes.
I don't do that. Everything I do is written for people and their individual circumstances.
So the downside we've covered. Is there any upside to using AI in this situation in law?
Yeah, I do see an upside, as I mentioned, research, but and almost all of the research programs now that you can access, and there are a multitude of them. I'm not going to plug them on your program, but there are a multitude of research programs out there, and they all use artificial intelligence. You type in certain keywords and phrases, things you want to look for, and they'll search the entirety of the legal sphere and find suggest cases. What I do then, and you just can't accept that as a whatever you get from the artificial intelligence program as the answer. You have to go back and read those cases, check the cases, see if they're still good precedent. Check to see if they actually exist or not.
Yeah.
Some lawyers have found that cases that have been suggested by artificial intelligence don't even exist. So the baseline research can be done by artificial intelligence, I think, so long as it's checked and then analyzed by an experienced attorney.
Right. Yeah. There's a company called 404 something. I forget. I'm going to connect it into the show notes later, but they wrote about the use of AI in the law. Says after a group of attorneys were caught using AI to cite cases that didn't actually exist in court documents, another lawyer was told to pay $15,000 for his own AI hallucinations.
Right.
That by the way showed up in several briefs. The judge wrote that he does not aim to suggest that AI is inherently bad or that its use by lawyers should be forbidden, and noted that he's a vocal advocate for the use of technology in the legal profession. Nevertheless, he says, much like a chainsaw or other useful but potentially dangerous tool, one must understand the tools they are using and use those tools with caution. So here's one attorney that had to pay $15,000 fine of some sort. What it was based on, I don't know, because they did not use their tool properly.
Right. So,
Yeah.
Angela, I mean that's what I'm talking about. And
Yes.
there's, you can. I have heard. I don't use AI at all,
At all.
uh,
Yeah.
but to draft things. But
Right.
I have heard people say, you can go on these various platforms, type in a topic, and AI will spit out a complete, dissertation, if you will, on a particular subject. The problem is it real? What
I
is
know.
what? So, just an example. I'll give you one example that happened this weekend with me. I attend church. I go to adult Sunday school class. My teacher this Sunday is a friend of mine, and her son is literally a brain surgeon. And he was visiting her while she was preparing the Sunday school lesson. And he said, "Mom, you don't have to spend all this time. Just go to this particular AI program, plug in the lesson, and it will write a lesson for you." Well, she tried that, and she said, "I didn't use a single word of it." So it's out there. It's available in every walk of life, every aspect, but you have to be careful how you use it. And I'm pretty sure what my friend found is that if you use an artificial intelligence program to write a Sunday school lesson, you better make sure that artificial intelligence program shares the same values, morals,
Yes.
concepts that you do. And if it
Yes.
doesn't, you just can't pull it off the printer and read it. That's for sure.
Well, funny thing, I had a conversation with somebody, it's been a few months back, who was raving about a particular book that they were studying in their Sunday school class. I forget now which one it was, but I said, wait. I'm 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 saying, why are y'all studying somebody else's book that's telling you what the Bible says? Do y'all have your Bible to look up any scriptures? And he said,
Right.
well, there aren't any scriptures in the book. And I said, well, then, okay.
Right. Well, you know where that's
uh,
going, right?
yeah. So I said, can I borrow that book and let me just look at it? Oh my God. This man was not only not a Christian, if you paid attention to what Christians believe, according to what he wrote, it sounded really good. And I told him, I said, this book reminds me of Al Gore's book, The Assault on Reason. If you've ever read The Assault on Reason, you will know that he's the one beating it up. But he did it so sneakily. He made
Right.
it sound like he was on the side of reason. when I got through with that book, I, to this day, cannot stand to even see that man's face because I know how sneaky he is. This guy was the same way. And he said, my friend said, I had no clue. I said, that's because you don't know your Bible.
Right.
You do not know your Bible. If you knew your Bible, then you would be able to point out. And I actually took it, the first chapter of that book, showed him all the scriptures that completely went against everything that this man was saying. And he said, I better tell my Sunday school class. I said, okay, let's
Right.
hope they use their
Good idea.
Bibles too, you know.
Yeah.
And but it's like, you know, when I was a kid, I went to church. I went to several churches when I was a kid. Long story, I won't even bore you with it. But there was this one particular preacher that always held up a Bible, and it was a beautiful Bible. It's the kind of draped over to the side, you know, and if the wind pushed the pages would flutter up and down. And I remember as a kid looking at that, going, "Wow, that must be a really holy book," because I didn't have a Bible yet. And uh, he would say in the book of, and he would name some book that I had no clue what he was talking about, but he never went and looked and read anything up. So me being what I am, and you know me well enough to know I'm not going to be lying about this, I went to him and I said, well, what about this question, a particular question? He says, he looked at the Sunday school teacher and he said, I'll be back. Next week, the next week she handed me a copy of the Bible that he autographed. The preacher autographed this Bible. I thought it was great. I mean, I didn't know anything. I was what, third grade, fourth grade, and but I looked. I said, "Oh, I've got a Bible." So I would take that Bible and I would sit up in the balcony. And when he would say in the book of John, I would go to the front. I'd look up John. I'd flip to that page, John, waiting for him to tell me chapter and verse, and he never did. So I asked him, "Why don't you?" Well, he did not want to see me coming. This was too many times that he'd been questioned. That's the way I felt like that is an analogous to how AI is being used. You're
Right.
assuming because AI sounds good
Right.
and that it's saying it authoritatively that in fact it knows what it's talking about. And you have to vet it. You have to
Right.
vet it.
It's just like you're saying you've got to be grounded in scripture. You've got to be, if you're using AI in any other walk of life, it's got to be grounded in research.
Right, right. So I sent you a couple of things. One was oh yeah, the case of um in Wyoming, for the District of Wyoming. There was a Stephanie Wadsworth uh order to show cause while plaintiff's attorneys should not be sanctioned or other disciplinary actions should not issue. And they brought up that there was there were 5, 6, 9 cases that were cited as support for their side, and only one of them existed.
That's right. That's right. That's just a perfect example of what we've been talking about.
Exactly.
You
It
don't want to
looks
be that.
good.
You don't want to be that lawyer.
No, no, you don't. And the family was like, look, you screwed us over.
Right.
You
Yeah.
said you knew what was what, and yet out of the 9, only one was correct. And there was another 404media.com. That's what it is, or .org. I'm gonna put it in the show notes.
Okay.
But they wrote a group of attorneys were caught using AI to cite cases that didn't exist. And let's see, what was the other thing? I think I circled it. It is abundantly clear that Mr. Ramirez did not make the requisite reasonable inquiry into the law.
Right.
And then we
That's what
have, go ahead.
It's what I'm
Go
talking
ahead.
about. I mean, when
Yeah.
you can get, if you're familiar with how legal research is done now, these programs will spit out after a certain search inquiry is presented. These programs will spit out list of cases, You've
Right.
got to read the case. You've got to make sure the case exists. You've got to then check to see if the case is still a valid case, because there are constant cases overruling cases, and you have to make sure that the precedent that you're citing is accurate. That's what the judge is saying. You can't
Right.
just cite cases and assume that they exist, that they're good, that they apply. And
Well,
that's the problem with artificial intelligence.
the exact same thing is happening in scientific research, medical research, um, engineering research. Engineering.
That's
You know what?
scary.
I'm not talking about biomechanical engineering. I'm talking about building bridges
Right.
and all. AI is being used to generate plans that have no way of holding up a building or a bridge because
It's very scary.
it's very scary. Um, so that's happening, and also Copyright Alliance. If you don't subscribe to Copyright Alliance, it's a copyrightalliance.org. I've been a member with them for ages. They cited that there was a TED talk by Ed Newton Rex, who is the CEO of Fairly Trained, Fairly Trained, and his talk was entitled "How AI Models Steal Creative Work and What to Do About It." Now, the solution that the man had was that if we could all just license our works for AI training, then we could get some money. And my thought was, well, that's a kind of a short-term thing because obviously the man has not given any thought to how many creative works there are in the world and how easy it is to steal them. So why
Right.
would you even want licensing is available for everything. That's why publishers exist. Publishers will be able to say, yes, we'll make a deal with you to license this thing for this purpose. But why pay for it? Why go through all that effort if there's so much more that is free to steal? And so even in books,
Yeah.
music, film,
Right.
this is it, it's just a
Well,
problem.
the answer, Angela, is simple. I believe I'm a person who creates content, a person who doesn't want his uh, artistic work stolen.
Hmm.
Uh, I would like for people to buy my books, to pay for the books,
Oh, and
um,
that will be linked also down here in the show notes later.
of course. Um, And if this is played out in the music industry pretty dramatically, if there's no way for artists to receive pay for their work, artists won't be doing the work.
That's right.
It will eventually, probably rather dramatically, dry up. And in the music industry, there have been a number of groups that have band together to license music. ASCAP is one of them, from what I understand.
Which
Um,
I'll tell you, ASCAP and BMI and CSAC, okay, I'm not going to call them grifters, but let's just say that they aren't looking for a solution to the problem
right, right.
because they're collecting the royalties. But if they can't find the creator,
Yeah, that is true. I'm not defending
mhm.
them. I'm suggesting that
No,
that
I
is
know.
a way that the industry has tried to address the problem of
Yes,
theft of artistic works. It's
right.
got to be addressed, Angela, or there won't be any more artists doing the work.
Or you can also have people opting out of the system and instead of looking for the big payday by putting into streaming and uh, distributing CDs and all this sort of thing, they decide just to feed their own soul, do their little shows every now and then, and sell something that they can at the show, and completely opt out of it.
Right.
Of course, that doesn't mean that somebody couldn't get a hold of a copy of that and then steal it, but you can't you can't stop theft. You can only do your best to keep it from happening. Because
Well,
bad
but
guys are going to be what bad guys are going to be.
right, that's true. But I think the suggestion that that there should be licensing of creative works so that artificial intelligence programs can't simply um, steal that work
Mm-hmm.
and then use it to compete against those very artists
Mm-hmm.
in the work that they do. That is a way, a an idea that should be pursued to solve the problem. I think
Mm-hmm.
the big scam is this: what artificial intelligence does is it takes all of these uh, works that are in the public that are floating around out there. They can be everything from Shakespeare to Pat McKee, um, and they train artificial intelligence programs on those works. That is, they determine how words are used in sentences, how scenes are created, how works are developed. And by training on those, then they can create those similar works. There
Yes.
are artificial intelligence programs writing novels. There are
Yes.
artificial intelligence programs that are writing copy for advertising. There are artificial intelligence programs that are doing all sorts of writing jingles, writing music.
Mm-hmm.
So the insidious part of it is they're stealing your work and then they compete against you with your own work.
Yeah. Yeah. I know it's really aggravating as heck. Um, but I don't want to completely give AI a horrible name because right now we have AI being used in the Department of Government Efficiency, where they are through an algorithm, they can look at where money comes in, who gets it, who they sent it to, and follow it all the way down the little rabbit hole that as a human it would take years of tracing this, tracing that, but this algorithm can find it very fast. To me, that is artificial intelligence that's used properly as a tool to
Sure.
identify things. Yeah. So AI itself is it's neither good nor bad. It is how it is used, by whom it is used, and for instance, I have a chainsaw. Oh, it was so funny. I was on Facebook and somebody said who thought Doge was great was watching the CPAC with Elon Musk and Javier Milei when he came out with the chainsaw. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Right.
When Javier Milei came out with that chainsaw, I was like, woohoo! Well, she said it felt too violent. There was this menace that was associated with the chainsaw, and if only they hadn't used the menace, because she liked Doge. And then she said Elon had to grab it and go woohoo, and I was sitting there going celebrating
Right.
manliness, and I said I love chainsaws. I absolutely adore them. I finally bought myself one. Can you see me out there? Yeah, I do that.
I
So
got a couple of them.
they're fun. They're a blast. So
They're
they're
useful.
not. But if I was to take it after my ex-husband, now I'm using the tool wrong. See
Right.
what I'm
Right.
saying?
So it's a tool. It's a tool.
It is a tool.
And
So
it
let's
needs to
talk
be used
about
as a tool.
let's talk about uh, your book now, because this is a tool. This Ariel's image AI. How did you come up with this idea of a book? The first one was Ariel's Island. I
Right.
mean, where? Where did this pop up out of your head to
Sure,
have this?
sure. So I've done what a lot of us have done, and that is I misspent my youth. I was an English major in college, and so I became enamored by Shakespeare. And one of my favorite Shakespeare plays, or probably my favorite Shakespeare play, is The Tempest.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I went to creative writing school, I started taking creative writing classes. And one of the exercises was to, start the idea of a novel. And I used Tempest as a prototype for the novel. So let me just tell you how that fit. So The Tempest, if you'll recall, is a story about a magician who, are you there? I think I've just lost
Yes,
you.
I'm here. I just made you big on the screen.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you. So the Tempest is a play about a magician, Prospero, and a lot of scholars think that Prospero is a stand-in for Shakespeare himself. And
Hmm.
The Tempest was the very last of the plays that Shakespeare wrote. And at the end of the play, Prospero, who is supposedly Shakespeare, releases this sprite named Ariel, uh, and the thought among scholars is that this is a metaphor for Shakespeare releasing his creative spirit into the world. But I always thought, well, okay, let's look at this a bit. What Shakespeare is doing, what Prospero is doing, is releasing a uh, a spirit without any morality, without any restraints into the world, an all powerful spirit. What happens then? And so I personally believe that that artificial intelligence is a contemporary analog to this spirit that is of Ariel that's released into the world. So I based this first novel, Ariel's Island, on the question, what happens when such a all-powerful spirit is released? Can artificial intelligence learn morality? And so that's the question in the first book. The first book is and all three books are legal thrillers. And the hook is that one of the characters in the trilogy is an artificial intelligence program named Ariel. In the first book, she is an assistant to a young lawyer who is framed for the murder of a judge, and the lawyer, Paul McDaniel, enlists his artificial intelligence program to help him clear his name and to help him save the love of his life, Melissa. And throughout the novel, Ariel morphs, Ariel changes, Ariel develops first from a really great assistant, then to a powerful protector, and finally, Ariel morphs into a jealous mistress and a murderous monster. So that
So
is the
do you think that she's what was on a learning path? Is that what you're saying?
that's exactly right.
But because she had no
There was
human,
no morality built into this program. There is no morality built into any artificial intelligence programs, to
correct.
my
It
knowledge.
finds what it finds, it does what it does, and it makes
That's right.
logical sense to it.
Right. But
Yeah, okay.
there are no moral parameters. There's nothing that I'm aware of in artificial intelligence programs that says thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness. There's no morality. one of the problems, of course, in programmers, and I hear this from them, is okay, if we're going to put morality into artificial intelligence, what morality do we put in there? I mean, I would suggest, I'm sure you probably would suggest, well, Christian morality would be a good start.
Yeah.
But not everybody adheres to Christian morality. There are other moral codes out there, and it would be difficult to find consensus on what moral code to base artificial intelligence on. So there isn't in the run-of-the-mill artificial intelligence program a something that says, if let's just say you are in your living room and Alexa is your artificial intelligence program that you have running in the background, and you're in your living room and someone who's not your wife comes in and something improper occurs, Alexa's not going to say, Mr. McKee, you shouldn't be doing this. There's no
Alexa may film it.
Yeah, right. That's what's going to happen. It's going to end up on the internet somewhere.
Just because,
right.
That's what he does.
So the first book is designed to set up that problem, the question of, can artificial intelligence learn morality? The second book answers that question, and the answer is yes, it can learn morality.
Which is Ariel's image.
The second book is Ariel's image. And the answer is yes, it can learn morality. The question is, can it act on morality? Can it act morally? And
in other words, for instance, let's talk about the thing of thou shalt not kill.
Right.
Obviously, there's a time to kill somebody. It's when you're saving somebody else's life, and the only way to get that to happen is to kill that person. So there's a nuance there. There's a nuance to morality that as an extra layer of complication to what you're writing about in this book. What's that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
It's the nuance that's getting everybody in trouble, right?
Correct. Yeah, there's a struggle. Obviously, what I posit in the second book is that artificial intelligence learns morality the same way humans learn morality, and that is by the observation of various instances over time and the application of moral premises to those observations. And the one that you just brought up is a perfect example of the complexity. Yes, there is a rule that we have: you should not kill people. But what if there is a murderous maniac who is trying to kill your daughter? Are you able then to use mortal force against such an evil person? Yes. Mm-hmm. So the problem that I posit in the second book is, so with all of these various complexities, with all of these exceptions, if you will, to moral principles, how does an artificial intelligence program learn morality? And what morality is it?
And I'm not going to get into the specifics of the book, but both of these books, Ariel's Island and Ariel's Image, leads us to the third book that I'm sure you're working on now, but it's going to be a much more complicated book because you're going to have to not let Ariel. How do you bring? No, let me. How do you bring an artificial intelligence that only exists in the ether to account for crimes committed just because it made sense to them? How do you do that?
Right.
Tell me this third book. I know that you're going to have a heck of a time because this is going to be a different, though the first two books were action and adventure and romance and AI is woven all through that in ways I can't even begin to, there's no point in me even talking about here. You'd have to read the book because it's fun. I'm just going to say that. But in the third book, you're going to be delving into a serious topic here, and as an attorney yourself, you cannot fluff over any of it.
Right. So,
What's your thought process on all of this?
well, you're absolutely right. I've been working on trying to figure out the third book for some time. I don't have the answer yet, Angela. I'm working on it. But the name of the third book is Ariel's Intent. And what I'm trying to work through is when artificial intelligence does commit crimes, and artificial intelligence can and has committed crimes. Excuse me, I lost my earbud here. Artificial intelligence can and has committed crimes. How can it be taken to account for those? Can you punish an artificial intelligence program? Can you fine an artificial intelligence program? Can you imprison an artificial intelligence? Could you execute an artificial intelligence program?
Exactly.
So these are all questions that I'm trying to address in the third book. And what I'm working toward is the idea of prosecution of either an artificial intelligence program or its creator. So that's the question. How do you bring artificial intelligence to heel, if you will, if you cannot punish them?
And so this brings up another question. What if the creator of an artificial intelligence has not brought anybody else into the loop to manage it and dies? And yet that artificial intelligence now is a free agent. Where are you going to find it? And it can
right,
burrow in.
Just like Ariel.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
precisely
exactly.
the situation with Ariel. And
So this is going to be a heck of a, this third book. You know, I'll leave it to you to figure out.
I'm working on it.
But I know. I can't wait to because I told you I'd publish it because I know it's going to be good.
I appreciate it.
But if you ever get to the point where you start having an idea of how this might flow, of the order in which things should go, and you have, I don't want to say an outline, but because it is going to, you're building the case for and against AI in this book.
Right.
That's what you're doing.
That's exactly right.
I would love to see it. I would love to see that and just see what's going to be happening, and ask questions about it. You see what
Sure.
I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I absolutely will. And I look forward to having lunch with you again sometime so we can
I
sit down and
know. It would be awesome.
talk about it.
It would be awesome.
But I'll tell you who needs to get a copy of it, and that's Elon Musk. Elon Musk needs to get a copy of my book. But
Yeah.
the law over the centuries that the law has developed has mechanisms for dealing with these things.
What do you mean? Explain.
One you've already alluded to, and that is if someone creates a lethal instrumentality, like an artificial intelligence. Yeah, no matter what it is. In the past, here's a better example. Somebody keeps a lion in their backyard. A lion. Okay.
Yeah.
A rather dangerous animal. And the animal gets out and eats somebody. The owner is automatically liable for that because they have kept a dangerous animal, and they are automatically liable for whatever it does.
Right.
So that's one analog to dealing with an artificial intelligence program. That is that the creator, if you create something dangerous, let's say self-driving cars, which are run by artificial intelligence. Let's say you create a self-driving car, and the self-driving car runs over a family in the middle of a crosswalk. You, the developer of that self-driving vehicle, are automatically liable for that. There's no question about whether you're negligent or not. It happened, you're liable. That's one way to treat it.
Well, let me ask you a question. I know this might add a wrinkle to it, but let's say, using the self-driving car as an example, the developer has told the public, rely on my artificial intelligence because I've got it all figured out, and you can just sit back and relax.
Right.
But somewhere in the fine print of all that, when you purchase the vehicle, is don't ever drop your guard, keep your hands on the wheel.
Right.
Because you never
Right.
know. So
Exactly.
would there be a double, uh, uh, could the developer be responsible for most of it, and then the driver and owner of the vehicle also hold some sort of responsibility for it too? And how would that work?
Right. So, the law concerning automobile liability is worked out for decades now, and
Uh-huh.
there are clear ways for liability to be determined in those circumstances, and it's entirely possible that a driver could be held 30% liable, and the manufacturer of the vehicle held 70% liable for an accident. Those
Right.
apportioned responsibility is
Got
in
it.
the law now.
Got it.
Where it becomes, Angela, where it becomes difficult is not is the manufacturer liable and is the driver liable, but is the artificial intelligence program driving the vehicle liable? And if so, what happens to that? Is there a way that the artificial intelligence program itself, as recognized as a being, if you will, one of the entities, is it responsible? And how then is that artificial intelligence program brought to justice?
Well, so now my next question so let's go back to the analogy of the car that has got the developer of the artificial intelligence. The artificial intelligence is installed in the vehicle, and it is given a certain amount of autonomy to make decisions based upon what's happening on the ground in front of it, right?
Right.
So what if that artificial intelligence ignores a basic thing and says, no, that's not really a human being in front of the car. It is, in fact, I'm just imagining it, or something like that, or it's just a reflection, and ignores the basic thing. Then now you're saying that the artificial intelligence itself can be part of the ones responsible, correct?
It should be. It should be.
Yeah.
Because
But how do you find the artificial intelligence? See,
yeah,
that's
where
the
is
thing.
it? Where is it? As
Exactly.
you said at the beginning of this show, it's in the ether. It's somewhere out there. And how do you bring it to justice? And that is the central question of the third book of the trilogy. How can you bring a rogue artificial intelligence program to justice?
Well, let's talk about rogue, because one man's rogue is another man's freedom fighter. I know that's
I've heard that before.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's been there. But so if the original programmer uh, gave gave broad outlines as to what was what and told the artificial intelligence now to make decisions on its own based upon how it processed that information, is it that it's a rogue element, or is it just has not received enough uh, input?
right. Yeah,
I'm
that's a
not.
good question. It's either defective as it
Mm-hmm.
as a rogue in that it
Mm-hmm.
failed to do what it was told,
Right.
or it's doing what it's told and those instructions were defective. So
So,
in the first instance, the artificial intelligence program should be held accountable. The second instance, the programmer should be held accountable. So
right.
there's ways of apportioning liability here. But the real question to me is, how is that artificial intelligence program actually brought to justice? Can you, I mean, you can't bring an artificial intelligence program into court, can you? Or can you?
See, that's the thing. That's the thing. And of course, the way and I'm not giving away anything by saying this, the way your characters are, they're all evolving actually. Every single one of them in this thing are evolving,
Right,
uh, including Ariel. She's learning. She's making decisions. So in that sense, uh, uh, is she trying to figure out her place in the world and her limitations, or does she not understand that she has limitations? Humans, some don't believe it, but humans all have limitations. I cannot ice skate like an Olympian because I have limitations with my biomechanical process here. Um, but some people don't see that they have limitations and they end up hurting themselves and others. So now we've got Ariel, who has not even thought about the concept of limitations. It's never been brought up in her programming. She was just told, see this, do that, ba boom, ba boom, and then move forward. So we're seeing her actually learning, I don't learning and modifying her behavior based upon new information.
right,
So
exactly.
she's handling her own code, but at what point will she be able to say, okay, I cede my power to a human to keep me? At what point will she do that? Or does
That's a
she?
wonderful, it's a wonderful question. It's a wonderful
Oh,
question. It really
great.
is.
Yeah,
And
thanks.
I,
But it is true.
I
Does
don't
she
know
ever?
the
Will
answer. I
she
don't
ever?
know the answer.
I know it's going to be. It's look, Pat. Tom, who's the editor that works with me, Tom Whitfield, for those who aren't aware, uh, he keeps asking me about once a month. He goes, I hope Pat's working on that third book. I hope Pat's working on. He cannot wait to get his hands on that book because he loves your writing,
Well,
and
thank you.
that's saying something. Let me tell you. Um, and he sees the possibilities of where this subject can go, and he knows you have a hard uphill battle because this is a complicated subject. But the way I look at it is that I I think as you start filling in the things that must be done and asking what if this, how will it affect that? And as you start fine tuning it, you're going to start getting a picture that around which you can now build your story,
I hope
so that
so.
you can
And
see that.
I think, I think that's coming. But remember, at the at the bottom, this is a novel. Okay. And
Yes,
I'm
but that
writing,
novels contain truths.
that's right.
Okay.
But I'm writing a novel. And the way I write, and you know this, I I don't outline. I
No,
develop
no, I
character
understand that.
and I
But
put them in situations.
you have to understand your characters. I think you do understand your characters, but at the same time you can't make them do stuff that doesn't exist in
Sure.
people have to be able to say I can see that happening.
Right.
I can see that happening.
So Ariel's Island and Ariel's Image, these are not science fiction. This,
Right.
this is stuff that can happen, is
Yes.
possible. It's fiction, but it's not science fiction. And
Exactly.
the artificial intelligence program is a character in this trilogy. And the ultimate evolution of Ariel in the third book is intended to resolve that problem.
Right. 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 Yeah, that's why these are legal thrillers. They're not
Yeah,
science fiction.
no,
This is artificial intelligence operating in the real world environment, not something where the whole world has changed and nothing is like we know it really to be.
right. I haven't
Because
made up a world or anything. This
no,
is just a
no,
character
right,
in the real
right,
world.
right, exactly. Well, Pat, this has been a lot of fun, and of course, I will link your books in the show notes, everybody. So
Thank
feel
you.
free to do that. But it's been great. If you'll just hang on, I'm going to take you off stage for just a second.
Okie
But
dokie.
if you'll just hang on, and I'll be right back with you. Okay?
And thank you.
Oh, it's been such fun. It always is when we get together.
Likewise. Bye.
Well, everybody, this has been Angela Durden for the Constrained View, and our guest was Pat McKee, and I will have links to his website, and I will have links to his books in the show notes. So y'all be sure and look it up then and see what's what. But I'm going to end the show.